Hey, it's really good to be back. And today we're jumping into something I've been looking forward to for a long time. Ranking every villain in Rick and Morty. Alright, starting off our list of Rick and Morty villains at the very bottom, number 30, we've got the Sperm Queen. And yeah, this one's rough. She shows up in Season 5, Episode 4. The one where Morty creates a bunch of killer sperm by donating to a horse breeding experiment. The Sperm Queen is basically the boss of all these rogue sperm. Her big evil plan: get to a giant human egg and make a baby. That's it. That's the whole plot. She's not smart, not scary, just super weird. This episode felt like it was trying way too hard to be edgy. Even the show's co-creator Dan Harmon later said they started with a dumb joke, the incest baby, and then tried to build a whole episode around it. And yeah, it really shows. She's last on the list because she's not really a villain we care about. She's just there for shock value. And it didn't land. Coming in at number 29 on our Rick and Morty villain ranking, Heistatron. The robot so obsessed with heists, he literally heisted himself into destroying a planet. Rick created a mass-murdering AI just to mess with his grandson's side project. Heistatron isn't evil in the traditional sense. He's a machine doing exactly what he was built to do. Yet he spirals out of control, goes full galaxy brain, and ends up in a logic war with Rick that ends with him self-destructing after realizing the perfect heist is one that's never written. It's clever, but kind of exhausting. Funny at first, but it burns out fast. And for all the chaos he caused, Heistatron still just feels like a tool in Rick's ego trip, not a villain with his own real drive. Alright, sliding in at number 28. Emperor Dreadnaugh, the cold, math-obsessed villain from Rise of the Numericans. One of the few Rick and Morty episodes with zero Rick. Let's be honest, this episode felt like the writers were experimenting. And not in a good way. No Rick, barely any Morty, and instead we get a bunch of number-themed alien creatures. Emperor Dreadnaugh is your classic evil overlord type. Ruthless, power-hungry, and proud to the point of delusion. Dreadnough's design is cool, and his voice has that icy dictator tone. But without Rick, Morty, or meaningful connection to the main story, he ends up as a forgettable side villain in a forgettable side plot. Coming in at number 27 on our Rick and Morty villain ranking is Jennith Padro Chunt, the evil cookie CEO from Final Dismissation, and quite honestly, a corporate cliché with extra steps. She's the head of Fortune 500, a shady megacorp that makes fortune cookies powered by an alien that literally writes reality. Yeah, that's the setup. And Jennith, she's your classic over-the-top CEO villain, greedy, ruthless, and completely detached from morality. To her credit, Jennith is committed. She'll kill anyone who threatens her empire, and when cornered, she goes full anime villain, literally transforming into a giant, writhing flesh monster after eating too many fortune cookies. It's a clear Akira reference. The wizard's whole deal is slut-shaming. Straight up. He thinks dragons are dirty and need to be controlled. So instead of just letting them live their weird, magical lives, he enslaves them for being too kinky. Like, chill, dude. It's not that deep. He's not clever, not funny. Just a bitter old guy mad that dragons have better sex lives than him. Rossato used to be the leader of an alien race, until Rick sold weapons to their enemies and got his entire species enslaved. Yeah, that's rough. Now he's working in a space restaurant, secretly plotting revenge. And when Jerry shows up, Rossato sees the perfect pawn. Now, let's be real. Rossato had every right to be mad. Rick ruined his entire planet for a paycheck. But as a villain, Rossato's just not that compelling. He's angry, sure, but he doesn't do much beyond giving a villain speech. He's also teamed up with Jerry, which, never a good sign for your chances of success. This version of the Pope is basically a religious warlord. He gets godlike power from Valhalla. Yes, the Viking afterlife. And when he discovers Bigfoot, a mythical creature not made by God, he decides that's blasphemy and uses him as a weapon. And credit where it's due, the Pope is actually dangerous. He straight up kills Rick, Morty, and Bigfoot multiple times. He looks cool, hits hard. Cool concept, wild execution, but not quite deep enough. Story Lord is interesting because he's not just fighting Rick. He's fighting the structure of the show itself. He wants stakes, continuity, serious arcs, and meaningful conflict. In a show that famously refuses to commit to any of those things. But that's also kind of his weakness. He's too meta. He works great for commentary and clever episodes, but he doesn't leave much emotional impact. Some people see her as a yandere, or psycho girlfriend trope. Loving and sweet one minute, violent and obsessive the next. But others argue she's not crazy. Just a powerful being, realizing how screwed up the world is, and deciding to take action without human rules holding her back. Kinda makes sense, right? Still, the way the episode handles it, fast relationship, emotional breakup, then she's just gone, makes her feel more like a metaphor than a full villain. She represents environmental rage, unchecked power, and youthful heartbreak. But not a lot of long-term depth. She's definitely dangerous, definitely unstable, but more of a tragic figure than a true antagonist. Rick and Morty's version of the actual devil, and a perfect example of what happens when you try to outscam Rick Sanchez. Rick and Summer absolutely destroy him. Like, literal beatdown. Jackass-style revenge montage. It's one of the most satisfying villain takedowns in the whole series. Lucius isn't the most dangerous villain, but he's hilarious in how fragile he is for someone who's supposed to be this evil force. At number 20, we've got Prince Nebulon, the overly confident alien behind the giant simulation con. And yeah, this dude really thought he could outsmart Rick Sanchez. Nebulon's a cool villain in theory, but like most people who try to outsmart Rick, he ends up fried. That's why he's stuck here at number 20. Fun idea, decent execution, but still got played. This Zeus is a straight-up planet-destroying monster. He's cruel, arrogant, and sees himself as the center of the universe, literally. But what really made him memorable? He absolutely wrecked Rick in a fight. Super strong, super evil, but we don't get to explore him much beyond that. Still, it's fun seeing Rick totally outmatched for once. At number 18, we've got Scary Terry, one of the most instantly recognizable and oddly lovable villains. Yeah, turns out he's not evil. He's just stressed out. He's scared he's not scary enough, stuck in a job where he feels like a failure, and trying to live up to expectations he didn't even set. The guy literally has anxiety about being terrifying. It's kind of sad, and very relatable. He's got depth. He's funny, memorable, and proves that even dream demons just need a little emotional support sometimes. Beths Mytholog, a twisted, ultra-evil version of Beth that lives inside Jerry's subconscious. Beths Mytholog is everything Jerry fears about her. Cold, calculating, manipulative, and straight-up terrifying. She's power-hungry, cruel, and way more competent than he gives her credit for. Her entire existence is based on Jerry's insecurities about Beth being stronger, smarter, and more dominant than him. And to be honest, that makes her scarier than most actual villains in the show. She's also one of the few mind villains that really sticks with you because she shows how twisted and insecure Jerry is. And how scary Beth could be if she went full sociopath. Snowball builds a robot dog army, takes over the house, and plans to enslave humanity. His logic is brutally fair. You treated us like pets. Now we'll do the same to you. It's smart, cold, and kind of heartbreaking, because it comes from real pain. But here's the part that makes Snowball special, he stops. After nearly destroying everything, he spares Morty, the only human who was ever kind to him. That tiny act of compassion leads Snowball to realize he doesn't want to become the monster he was turning into. So he takes his dog army, leaves Earth, and starts over in another dimension, to rule as a kind leader who learns from humanity's mistakes. A villain who had every reason to go full evil, but chose empathy instead. Fart sees all carbon-based life as a disease. Like everyone. Humans, aliens, everything. His plan? Go back to his dimension, gather his people, and come back to wipe out the entire universe. Not out of hate, just cold, calm logic. Pure, we must cleanse this reality vibes. He's like Ultron. Morty almost lets him do it. That's how charming Fart is. He's emotionless, polite, even beautiful in a weird way. But his core belief is pure genocide. At number 14, we've got Nick, the dude with a portal hole in his leg who seemed cool at first, but turned out to be seriously messed up. What makes Nick such a good villain isn't just what he does. It's how he manipulates Morty. He knows exactly what buttons to push, makes Morty feel like they're the same, and then turns on him the second it's convenient. The moment Morty realizes what Nick really is, brutal. Morty literally has to cut off his own hand just to stop him. That's how bad it gets. We've got the fear hole guy, and wow, this one's a ride. He introduces himself like a motivational speaker meets Twilight Zone narrator, offering Rick and Morty a chance to face their deepest fears by jumping into a literal hole in the ground. The fear hole guy plays the villain on purpose to push people towards self-realization. His whole job is to be the scariest, most unsettling version of the truth, until you're finally strong enough to face it. So yeah, he's creepy, cryptic, and weirdly helpful. He's also one of the few villains who isn't really evil, just complicated. He forces growth, whether you want it or not. The Meeks are designed to live only long enough to complete one task. You push the box, they appear. You ask for help, they do it. And poof, they're gone. That's their entire purpose. Sounds simple, right? But Jerry ruins it. By the end of the episode, there's a full-blown Meeks uprising in a restaurant. One of them's dressed like a medieval executioner, and they're actively threatening to kill Jerry just to free themselves from existence. It's absurd. It's dark. It's genius. Because it shows that something as harmless and happy-looking as a Meeks can become terrifying when you throw them at an unfixable problem like Jerry's ego. President Curtis. He's not just the President of the United States. He's the President of Petty. He's funny, clever, and just stubborn enough to survive a fight with the smartest man in the universe. He doesn't want to destroy the world. He just wants his respect, which makes him feel more real than a lot of the big villains. I thought the fights that showed that the president could match Rick with his arsenal of cryptic bullshit were really interesting. Reminds you that Rick isn't some super being, he's just a guy with better tech than us. He's not out to ruin Rick. He just wants Rick to stop acting like the world revolves around him. That very human. On the surface, Supernova looks like your typical cosmic powerhouse. Glowing, confident, justice-driven. But it doesn't take long to realize she's just as twisted as any villain Rick's ever faced. Maybe worse, because she pretends to be one of the good guys. She murdered her own teammates in cold blood, blamed it on Doom Nomatron, and walked away like she saved the day. Not so cool. Supernova ranks this high because she represents a terrifying idea. A villain who genuinely believes she's the hero, and that makes her incredibly dangerous. Tammy's betrayal is still one of the most shocking moments in the series. Tammy exploited someone's deepest trust just to serve a cause that wanted to erase freedom from the universe. Cold doesn't even begin to describe it. And get this, she really committed. She stayed undercover for years, lived as a teenager, played dumb, possibly even had a child with Bird Person. All just to stay in character. That's next-level villainy. Toxic Rick, a villain who literally is Rick's worst traits bottled into one person. And the scariest part? He's still brilliant. So Toxic Rick is pure ego, pure superiority complex. He's rude, selfish, manipulative, and proud of it. But here's what makes him terrifying. He's still Rick, still a genius, still dangerous. And now, without any emotional weight holding him back, he's willing to do whatever it takes to prove he's the real version. Evil Rick. He's cold, robotic, and casually murdering dozens of Mortys. But as the story unfolds, you start to realize he's not in control. He's being puppeteered by Evil Morty the whole time. According to Dan Harmon, Evil Rick was still a real Rick, not a robot, but rigged with implants that let Evil Morty control him like a puppet. And that's what makes him one of the saddest villains on this list. He was still conscious, still trapped in his own body while being forced to hurt innocent Mortys. Probably hearing every scream, feeling every act of violence, and unable to stop any of it. Night Summer isn't just clever. She's strategic, dominant, and ruthless. She organizes the Night family into a full-on underground rebellion. While Rick is asleep, she's undoing everything he tries to fix. And here's the wild part. She beats him. She wins. Night Summer earns her spot this high because she shows what happens when Summer reaches her full potential and has nothing left to lose. Mr. Jellybean. And no joke, this is one of the darkest, most uncomfortable villains Rick and Morty has ever introduced. The fact that he's voiced by Tom Kenny, the same guy who voices SpongeBob, makes it even more unsettling. He follows Morty into a bathroom and tries to assault him. No warning, no build-up. Just one of the darkest, most messed up scenes in the series. And the show plays it real. Morty's scared. He fights back. He doesn't even tell Rick at first. He just wants to move on, like so many people do after something traumatic. And it hits way harder because Morty's just a kid, and this moment reminds you how vulnerable he really is in all this chaos. Mr. Jellybean isn't powerful, he isn't smart, but he's one of the most human villains in the worst way. And that's why he's so unforgettable. Mr. Nimbus, he's absolutely ridiculous. But that's what makes him so fascinating. Rick takes him seriously. Rick, who talks down to literal gods, robots, and presidents, gets anxious about dinner with Mr. Nimbus. He stresses out, tries to micromanage Morty and Summer, and clearly has history with this guy. Because Mr. Nimbus isn't just silly, he knows Rick. Like, really knows him. Most people worship Rick. They fear him, admire him, or try to kill him. But Nimbus? He pities him. And honestly, that's what makes Mr. Nimbus more than a joke. Yes, he's hilarious. Yes, he's over the top. But he's also one of the only characters in the entire show who can put Rick on edge. Just by being in the room. Zeke, Xanthorpe, Rick's mirror, rival, and possibly the most underrated genius in the entire show. And from the moment he steps on screen, it's clear, this guy isn't just smart. He's Rick-level smart. He hates being second to anyone, especially Rick. The whole episode becomes this hilarious, high-stakes pissing match where they both try to outscience each other while stranded in a tiny universe. But here's why he's ranked so high. Zeke isn't just a one-off smart guy. He's a genuine threat. If he ever got out of his universe, he could easily become a major force. But like Rick said, he's smart enough to know better. He knows if he ever tries anything, Rick would erase his universe in a blink. And that tension, that quiet standoff, that's scarier than any big showdown. Rick Prime. The OG Rick, the one who started it all, and the personal demon that's been living rent-free in Rick C-137's head since the pilot. Rick Prime is not just another version of Rick. He's the one who invented portal tech. He's the one who spread it to the multiverse. And most importantly, he's the one who murdered Rick C-137's wife and daughter, kicking off the entire dark spiral that made our Rick who he is today. Rick Prime earns his spot at number 2, not because he was unbeatable, but because he was Rick's reason. His ghost, his obsession, and taking him off the board didn't bring closure. It just exposed how empty revenge can really be. Evil Morty, and honestly, there was no one else it could be. Evil Morty isn't just the scariest villain because of what he's done, though yeah, he's done a lot. He's scary because he's us. He's the part of Morty that finally got tired of being treated like garbage, of being dismissed, dragged around, traumatized. And that's what makes him terrifying. He plays the long game. He hides in plain sight. He manipulates an entire citadel full of Ricks. He kills the council, rigs an election, takes over, and no one even sees it coming. Why? Because he's a Morty. And no one ever takes Morty seriously. But here's the thing. Evil Morty doesn't want to rule the multiverse. He doesn't want power for the sake of it. He wants out. He wants to escape this infinite loop of Ricks abusing Mortys, of every universe being just a slightly different flavor of the same sad story. He wants to break the machine, not control it.